college football week 9 best bets. In this video, we go through 4 of the biggest games on Saturday, give you our favorite side or total in those games, and then we'll dive into one additional game apiece. As always, my name is Austin. I'm joined by Logan. Logan, it is good to see you. Now, I'll be honest, the 4 games we have loaded up for this slate are very interesting. They have my mind on a pretzel, and we'll dive into them in just one moment. But before we even do that, and heck, Logan and I might differ on a lot of these games because they're basically all pick'ems. But we do need to recap how we did last week. And man, I got a bone to pick because I went 2-3. And look, I know today, as we record this on Thursday, there's all that Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier stuff. Well, I'd like the Tennessee and Alabama game to be investigated because, man, I was on that dang over. We had first and goal in the 2, and I needed to touch. I just needed points. And then, of course, Tennessee runs out the clock. That was the difference between me having a winning day. I think you had a losing week because Notre Dame couldn't make some extra points. Mm-hmm. So, man, we both got a bone to pick. But you know what? We're going to bounce back this week. At the end of the video, we'll have some player props as well from these games on Underdog Fantasy. But Logan, let's just kick things off. Let's start with our first game. We head out to Norman, where we have Ole Miss taking on the Sooners. Now, right now, you're looking at the Sooners laying a pretty sizable number, 5.5 points. The over-under at 52.5. Logan, what are you doing here?
Yeah, so for this game, I'm rolling with the Rebels plus the points in this one. I think Ole Miss is the side I want to be on because it wouldn't shock me at all if they did win this game outright. Now, if we're kind of looking at last week, they scored touchdowns on 5 consecutive possessions at Georgia before Kirby Smart and that Georgia defense really figured it out. And that's kind of what Lane Kiffin is. He's a great offensive mind. He has his players ready to play. Brent Venables, defensive-minded guy. So obviously we've got strength on strength between these two teams. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Lane Kiffin wins this coaching battle. I think his offense will be sharp in this spot. Again, in the underdog role on the road in Norman, it can be a tough place to play, but catching them at noon, I think actually bodes well for Ole Miss. Ole Miss eighth in the nation in passing yards, 9th in the nation in first downs. Trinidad Chambliss has been absolutely phenomenal for them. Same with Kawan Lacey. They really are good at taking care of the ball as well. If they don't turn the ball over against a pretty stout Oklahoma defense, I still think they're going to be able to move it up and down the field. Oklahoma leads the nation in sacks and tackles for loss. Ole Miss has allowed just 7 sacks all season long. So Oklahoma's defense, what they do well, Ole Miss is pretty good at blocking up. So again, if they give Chambliss some time to throw, he'll make those plays. I love Ole Miss plus the points in this one.
Yeah, I feel like when I was looking at this one, I was doing some research and seeing what other people were on. Didn't feel like anyone gave Oklahoma a chance to win this game. It feels like everyone's back in Ole Miss. And I understand it. They have the high-powered offense. You could argue they choked away that game against Georgia. So I don't disagree with any of the picks and the side you're on. I'm actually on the other side. And that's why I said these games are a little bit weird. I just think Oklahoma getting 5.5 points when Georgia was just getting 7.5 or 8.5. I don't think anyone respects Oklahoma even close to where Georgia does. And that's why I really like the Sooners. I know it makes no sense, but this is a Sooners team. You brought up how good their defense has been. They're also first in yards per play, first in pressure rate. So they're going to get Chambliss under pressure. And I really think this is an Ole Miss defense that can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, last week we saw the Georgia offense go up and down the field 500 yards. There's a reason they came back in that game. And if you're consistently giving up that many yards and points, it's going to be tough, especially against an Oklahoma defense that's really talented. I just think this is a spot where Ole Miss, maybe the loss last week where they choked it away at a 9-point lead going into the 4th, didn't end up covering. So if you had Ole Miss last week, I feel bad for you. I think this is the one they somehow lose late, and you're just like, oh, I picked Ole Miss. It feels weird, this spread. I honestly thought the spread should be closer to like 2.5, 3.5. The fact is that 5.5, pretty dang high, and that's why I'm trusting the Bucks. They know what they're doing. I'll ride with the Sooners. Logan and I off to a hot start. One of us is going 1-0 there, though, Logan. That's a great start for the program. But let's dive into the second game. Let's see if we agree on this one as we have BYU taking on Iowa State. Now, BYU, I'd like to shout them out. They got it done last week for me. I absolutely needed them, plus 3.5. They got the job done at Utah. Now, it appears the books think a solid flat spot out in Iowa. There's 2.5-point dogs, over under 49.5. Logan, what are you feeling here?
So we'll see if we disagree on this one. I mean, we disagreed on the first pick, but I'm rolling with BYU plus the points. Kind of kicking myself last week. I wish I would have taken them instead of the over. So it was still kind of a close over. Utah just couldn't really get anything, to late in that game. BYU, 10th in the country in rushing yards per game, a little over 230 rushing yards per game, 17th in yards per carry. This is a very efficient ground offense. And we know in college football, if you can establish the game on the road, you already give yourself a pretty big chance to win. The running attack, obviously headed by L.J. Martin, and Baron Bachmeier himself has been great for this BYU offense. Now they face an Iowa State defense that has been really bad against the run. I mean, 64th in rushing yards allowed, 88th in yards per rush allowed. If BYU is able to establish the run, this could be a long game for Iowa State. And I understand the sharp spot is Iowa State. If you're kind of looking at them, you're like, hey, this is a potential flat spot in Ames. But I don't think their offense is really going to be that efficient against BYU's defense either. The BYU's defense has been really lights out. I mean, they're not getting talked about enough, obviously, because of where they play. And if you're out in the West, a lot of us East Coasters don't stay up to watch these BYU games. I get it, but they're only allowing 16 points per game. That's 14th in the country and 21st in passing yards allowed. I think they're going to really try challenge Rocco Becht and that offense. Especially because Iowa State has dropped 2 straight Big 12 games. Having a bye this past week, maybe that gets them a little bit more focused. That's probably where this generous line is coming from. But I just think that defense is a liability for Iowa State. So give me BYU. Hopefully you're on the same side as me, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to take them on the money line, plus 120. You can't really get a playable 3 line. So I think
Okay.
BYU either wins this game outright or maybe they lose by double digits. And maybe that's why the spread is speaking to it. I'm not going to go too hard into it because you've already touched on a lot of my points. But again, LJ Martin, he's been an absolute stud, 100 plus rush yards in 5 of 7 games. And Bear Bachmeier, a rushing touchdown in every single game but one. He's had quietly over the last few games, 60 plus rushing yards in 3 of the last 4. So again, he's been making plays with his feet. This is a team that's been on the road before for some games, so it's not like this is their first road game, their first rodeo. And Iowa State just is not looking good. Rocco Becht is just maybe not a guy I really want to back a whole lot. I get why people are trying to get sharp here, but I feel like it's a little bit of a fake sharp spot where people are just like, oh, a ranked team on the road, BYU coming off a big win. It's a flat spot. I just think BYU is flat out the better team. I think they keep rolling here. They stay undefeated. I'll keep backing the Cougars. They deserve it. After last week, they treated me right. I'll ride with them again. Our next game, Logan, we head to an SEC showdown where one of our futures, which is looking solid, Missouri Tigers, are taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Now, right now, you're seeing this game more or less a pick 'em. I mean, Vandy is 2.5-point favorites, but minus 140 on the money line. Nothing too crazy there. Over under 53.5. So some points are expected here. Logan, I'll be honest, I don't love this game. I feel like it could go either way. But what do you like here?
Damn. So you're just letting me go first so you can try
Go
to
first,
fade
fine.
me
I'll
or,
go
or
first. I'll go first for you. I'll stand in some business. I'm taking Missouri. I'm not going away from our future. And while I get it, this is probably one of those games we kind of need for the future, and we could use a win like this. I think just this game is a coin flip. And so taking a team at plus 120 on the money line as opposed to, minus 140 or laying the points, I'll happily do it. I just don't feel like anyone knows a whole lot about Mizzou, but this is a team that, I mean, I feel like they're really well rounded. Whereas a Vanderbilt team, sure, they have Diego Pavia and he makes plays. He's the flashy name that everyone knows, but I just don't trust their defense a whole lot, and I just feel like they're a very one-sided program. Whereas Bo Perbula, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he, I think, can make some plays here. He's coming off his first career road start where, yeah, he struggled. And I'd argue they should have lost last week to Auburn, but beat him in overtime. And then the game before that was that home game against Alabama. So, again, they've faced some good teams. They've been competitive or won all of these games. And coming off his first career road start, I think he can limit the damage. I know he's been making turnovers. I think it's interception in 5 straight. So that's a little bit concerning, but I can't go away from our Missouri Tigers. I need a win this week, and I'll be backing them plus 120 on the money line in Vandy. I think they beat them. What do you like, though?
I hear you on the future. And while when I made that bet, obviously preseason, I did like the prospects of this Missouri team. I just don't like the spot for them. Honestly, Austin, I gotta fade you. I gotta take Vandy. I'll take them on the money line. Just a little bit of juice to lay there. But in my opinion, the minus 140-ish money line is a fine price to pay. I mean, I just think when you have Diego Pavia at home in this spot and coming off a big momentum win against LSU, I think they're going to be ready to host Missouri. Again, what worried me about Missouri was how they would handle the games on the road. Did they look sharp in that Auburn spot? No. Now they're facing Diego Pavia, who's going to be much more of an offensive, weapon for them to have to contain. And I do have questions about the Missouri defense. I mean, he makes plays on the ground with his legs. A very good secondary for Missouri, but I still think he's able to sling it. He also has Cedric Alexander, who's averaging over 5 yards a carry. So again, they're not getting into these long, third and longs. That's how Vandy is pulling off a lot of these wins. And if we look at Bo Perbula, I mean, we've mentioned he's looked really good in this offense, but turnovers are kind of creeping up on him. I mean, they obviously, he's got to take care of the ball. He has four interceptions in the last two outings. You're not going to win against Vanderbilt turning the ball over. And obviously they do want to run the ball, but Vanderbilt's pretty stout against the run. And then we look at, if we kind of look at Missouri's defense, they're stout, but away from home, they allowed 246 total yards, on the season, 358 when they're on the road. So again, that defense could be a little bit vulnerable against Diego Pavia. So while I kind of like a Missouri win for the future, but I got to be realistic, Austin. I think this is a Vanderbilt spot.
Certainly could be. I mean, like I said, this game feels like a pretty big coin flip. We'll see. I mean, one of us is going to get a win. Logan and I are never going to agree on every single pick, especially in college, because college, it's really hard to get a pulse on these programs. But we'll see. One of us is probably going to have a good week. One of us is going to have a bad week. We'll see. But we end the week before we get into some individual picks and some player props with our final SEC matchup: Texas A&M taking on LSU in Baton Rouge. A little night game here. Surprising a little bit to see Texas A&M, the third overall ranked team, only 2.5-point favorites here. There's over under at 49.5. I've gone back and forth in this game, Logan, and I don't think there's, and I'm the resident expert of fading Texas A&M. That's what I do. I wake up and I fade them. So I'm doing it again. I don't really know where you're going. I just see Texas A&M and I want to fade them, and I've wanted to fade them here for since last week when I saw this game on their schedule. And this is just a team that they keep skating by the skin of their teeth, and I'm tired of it. So we're sending them home with a nice L. They're going back. I don't know where they go next week to College Station. They're going back with an L on their record, and they're going to have to think about it. But again, this is just a team and defense that I just don't believe in. And Texas A&M, they've skated by a couple wins. They beat Arkansas last week on the road, 45-42. Their earlier road game, 41-40 against Notre Dame. I mean, those eventually they got to run into something. They're just relying on scoring 40-plus points. And I think this LSU defense is a very good unit. Now, the question comes here with Garrett Nussmeier in the offense, and I get it. The offense has to show up. Nussmeier, I don't know if he's playing injured or what the heck's going on, but I think finally he has one of those big games. We've seen him do it before. He's facing a Texas A&M defense that has stunk over the pretty much all season long. It just feels like a must-win game for Brian Kelly and company. They're coming off that loss to Vandy. They have a bye week coming up, and then they face Alabama at Alabama. That's a tough test. You don't want to go in there losing 2 straight, having to wait a whole bye week to just kind of sulk in that loss. I think LSU finds a way. I don't know how they do it. I think they find a way to beat the number 3 overall ranked Aggies. I got to fade them, but you understand. Logan, what do you like here, though? I'm sure you're on the other side.
People are absolutely going to hate watching this episode because they're going to have to be kind of split because you and I do not agree at all on this slate. That's going to happen. I mean, that's going to happen with college football. I'm rolling with Texas A&M. I think they win. Naturally,
I might switch off BYU now. I might fade the whole card. I mean, guys, it's going to happen. This card is a weird one, but Logan, you can touch on why you like A&M, and then people can choose whichever side they want to roll with.
Yeah, it's kind of like, picking between your 2 sons, right? That's what you're going to have to do when you watch this video. Which son do you love more? Which son do you think is right in this one? But I mean, I am rolling with Texas A&M, and Austin comes into this one. He's biased, okay? He's a Texas A&M is fraud. He's called them that before. And while I agree, I would like to see their defense play a little bit better. This is just a bad spot. This is a bad LSU team, and I am not a Brian Kelly believer. I mean, you can say that Texas A&M maybe isn't winning these games convincingly, but I'll say Brian Kelly is a terrible coach. He's nothing special at all. And this LSU team, I think, is going to quit on him a little bit. They lost that game in Vanderbilt, which again, they had all the opportunities to kind of like take that one from Vandy, and they just couldn't close that game. Nussmeier in that offense didn't look good. And LSU, if you're looking at, their game versus Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, these are just some losses that they can't have. Brian Kelly and this defense allowed just 15.3 points per game on the year, but recently it slipped. It's 22 points per game in the last 3 outings. That's what I'm saying. Like slipping by a whole touchdown, that's really going to bite him in the butt against a really good dual threat quarterback in Marcel Reed. Now, I had my question marks on Marcel Reed. I was like, is this guy legit? Well, he's looking legit. He looks all the part in this offense. Another year in this Texas A&M offense, he's excelling in the red zone. 96.3% of red zone possessions results in a score. That's what you love to see in college football. And LSU's run defense has been good on the season, but again, slipped recently. 200.7 rushing yards over the last 3 games. against Marcel Reed, that's a bad matchup. And LSU's offensive line, one of the reasons why I think Nussmeier's kind of struggling is his offensive line is breaking down. I mean, they're just lost another tackle. They've been one-dimensional, really bad at running the ball. So it's kind of like pin your ears back, go hunt Nussmeier, 117th in the nation in running the ball. Austin, being one-dimensional like that against a good Texas A&M team, I think is kind of what's going to defeat them in this one. So I'm betting against Brian Kelly. It's kind of passions here. You're betting against Texas A&M because you think they're frauds. I'm betting against Brian Kelly because I think he's a terrible coach, as overrated as they come. So give me Texas A&M in this one.
Yeah, we're sorry, guys. We didn't really we don't tell each other our picks coming into the week. It's but just for college football. For like MLB and stuff, we'll obviously collaborate on those. But for college football, we like to hear opposite. We didn't expect to be on other sides on basically every game. Go BYU, and then the other three. Your guess is good as mine. But Logan, I'll lead off things with our individual picks. Then I'll throw it to you, and then I'll do some player props at the end. I last week, if you know my individual pick, it was Mississippi State, Florida. Took the under. Well, that was sweat free. Now I go back to Mississippi State. This time they're at home, and I'm taking them plus 7.5 as they host Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns. Now, look, I can't get there betting with Arch. Tell me he has to beat a team by 8 on the road? No shot. We've seen him struggle, and I'm rooting for Arch. I want him to succeed, just not in this game. Maybe he can have a good game, and maybe Mississippi State can backdoor. But again, we saw him struggle in week 1 at Ohio State, struggle at Florida. They lost that game. And then last week, barely beating Kentucky. He completed 44% of his passes last week. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. Now, is Mississippi State a team that I'm like, ooh, yay, let's back them? No, not necessarily. But I do think that this is a spot that Texas could overlook. Their next 2 games are at against Vanderbilt, and then I believe at Georgia. So again, barring whatever happens with Vandy, 2 top 10 programs that they're going to have to face. And the Bulldogs team is kind of reeling a little bit. They've lost 3 in a row, 2 of them on the road. Now they return back home. I think now's the time to save your season. Go in at home and beat a team in Texas that I had high expectations coming into the year, but obviously hasn't really shown up so far. Blake Shapen, not my favorite QB, but again, a high completion guy, had like 300 plus pass yards last week. So what's slinging the rock around, and their running backs are really what carry the team, Bothwell and Booth. Now, Bothwell is currently questionable, but I do think that he suits up, but Booth can handle it if that's what it needs to come down to. I think this is a lower scoring game. I like taking the plus 7.5, like taking the home team, especially against an offense in Texas that has struggled all year long, coming up on 2 big matchups. I think Mississippi State has to empty the playbook to win here, and I think they have a good chance of doing it. I'll keep the 7.5 points in my back pocket. But Logan, I'll talk about some props at the end. What you got for the people?
You know, I've disagreed on the big games, but I love your angle on that one. I love fading Arch Manning. I'm addicted to that. Love that angle. Now, my pick's going to be a favorite, and it's going to be a team laying a sort of big number. I'm rolling with Navy minus 14 in this one. Some books have it 14.5. Again, you line shop, you can find 14. Maybe by kick, it drops to 13.5. We'll see how this trends. But a 2-touchdown win would push this one. I still think they can win this one by 3 scores. This matchup really heavily favors Navy. Just kind of looking at how they match up versus FAU. FAU's major weakness, rushing offense, 107.6 rushing yards per game, 119th in the FBS, and their rushing defense, also bad, 176.6 rushing yards allowed, 110th in the FBS. Now that kind of plays directly into Navy's strength, right? Navy wants to control the ball. They want to control possessions. That's the FAU has not done that well this season at all. Navy is most dominant rushing team in the FBS, thrives at home with really good execution. A lot of these teams sometimes beat themselves. It's not the Navy, not the Navy way, right? These service academies play within themselves. Then also, we got to talk about one of the quarterbacks in the nation that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. Blake Horvath, 980 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 640 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Those are amazing stats. He can really do it all, and that's what this Navy offense needs. Their Navy's defense only allowing red zone touchdowns 52% of the time. That's 20th in the country. You're gonna win a lot of games like that, and you're also going to be able to hopefully cover a pretty big spread. I think FAU and their air raid offense, isn't really going to play a big factor into this one. If we look at Navy, if they're able to kind of take away those big, chunk yardage plays that FAU has relied upon and sometimes this year, I think this FAU offense really folds. In the battle of the trenches, I do like Navy, and I think they're going to be able to possess the ball, keep it out of FAU's hands, and win this game going away. So I do like Navy. Laying the big number with the Service Academy is not for the faint of heart, but I love them in this matchup, and I love that as my little non-fading Austin pick of the week. Hopefully that one does cash. But also, you mentioned player props. What you rolling with?
Yeah, add FAU spread to my card while you were at it. Joking aside, I'm not doing that. Let's talk about some props. Yes, I do have some props on Underdog Fantasy. Reminder code COS. Play $5, get $100 in bonus funds. If you want to take advantage, do it. Here are all the states Underdog's available, and if it's in your state, you should get on it. Definitely sign up. Here are my 4 props. And man, I swear if I lose by one more on the hook, I'm good. We have Haynes King. He's back for more with a rushing receiving touchdown, something he's done every game this season. Blake Shapen, I need 1 passing touchdown out of you. If he doesn't get that, Mississippi State ain't covering. I'm just here to say that. Deshaun Bishop, ever heard of him? He's a great running back for the Tennessee Volunteers, and he's been scoring touchdowns. He's been a big part of that offense. I think they win. I like him to score. And Ty Simpson, we faded him last week. It cashed. We're taking him this week for 2+ passing touchdowns, as I think Alabama rolls in their game. Those 4, 5.08x your money. You can throw a boost on there, which Underdog's doing boost pretty much every single day in October. Get on in there, sign up, code COS, or the link down below. We'll see how this week goes. Logan and I are basically on the opposite side of a lot of these games. We'll see how it goes. But either way, we had fun and hope you guys did too. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button. If you guys want to let us know your favorite picks down below, we're always open to hearing what you got. We'll see you guys back in the next one. Peace.